All right, class, as we continue with our video series, I am going to complete the second half of the first assignment. The last video we did last week covered the first 30 or 33 or 34 odd pages of the first assignment from March. This is going to cover the last 20 or so pages. So this story is The Mysterious Life of Twins, and it starts on page 34 of your packet. So this story covers twins, how similar they are, even if they do not grow up with each other. They share many similarities that the story covers. So let's jump right into the questions now. Section A, recognize and recall details. Take a look at number 1. Scientists have long known that identical twins have the same genes. So they come from the same womb and they have the same genes. Number 2. When twins Daphne and Barbara met for the first time, they both B. wore the same kind of clothes. 3. Rod Fuller, a twin from Texas, says that all twins have C. a certain bond for one another. Number 4. Adriana and Drainey McPherson claim that when one of them gets hurt, the other C can feel the pain. Move on to section B now. Finding the main idea. One of these is too broad and one of these is too narrow. So the first one says there seems to be a special connection between twins, perhaps one that is related to their shared genes. That would be M, the main idea. Number 2. Jim Lewis and his twin brother live surprisingly similar lives. From the names of their children to their choice of cars, that would be N, too narrow. Number 3. The study of twins has led to some amazing discoveries. That would be B, too broad of a general statement to be a statement. Okay, moving on. Letter C now. It says choose the summary that says the most important part about the article. So number A for number 1 says the study of twins may reveal interesting facts about all of us, from what we wear to the kind of car we drive, and that would be the best summary, letter A. Number 2, choose a sentence that correctly restates the following sentence. The twins in Bouchard's study were more alike than anyone would have guessed. That would be letter A. No one would have predicted that the twins whom Bouchard studied would be so similar. Moving on to section D, making inferences. So we're going to write C or F if it's a correct inference or if it's a faulty inference. Number 1, pairs of identical twins always have the same taste in clothes, food, cars, and children's names. That would be F, a faulty inference. Number 2, there is a good chance that an identical twin will look more like his or her twin than anyone else. That is C, a correct inference. Number 3, separating identical twins at birth never has an effect on their closeness or friendships later in life. That would be F, a faulty inference. Number 4, if twins are separated at birth and do not have any contact for a long period of time, they will never look alike. That would be F, a faulty inference. Number 5, genes have a powerful influence on the characteristics of people's bodies and minds. That would be C, a correct inference. So moving on now, last section, section E. What is the author's purpose in writing The Mysterious Life of Twins? That would be B, to inform the reader about amazing similarities between twins and to suggest a reason for those similarities. Number 2, choose a statement you believe the author would agree with. Twins often seem to be strongly connected to each other even if they have never lived together. That would be A. Number F, which statement from the article is an opinion? For number 1, that would be C. It is ridiculous to think there could be a gene that tells you what kind of car to buy. Number 2, from the article you can predict that scientists will B, continue to do research on twins. Number 3, if you were a scientist, how could you best use the information in the article to learn more about the effects of genes on human development? That would be A, I could use it to plan further studies on twins. And that is it for this story. Moving on to our next story, it's a story on mummies. It covers mummies created in ancient Egypt. It even looked at some mummies that were created in South America. So this whole article is about the mummification process and why it is done. And we're going to answer questions on this next. So first one, letter A, section A, recognize and recall details. Number one, for the ancient Egyptians, the first step in making a mummy was to B, remove most of the inner organs and the brain. Number two, the Egyptians thought that at death, the spirit C, visited the gods but returned to its body to rest. Number three, usually mummies made in South America, B, had their knees folded up to their chins. Number four, Italians who made mummies during the last 400 years did so in order to A, keep in touch with the spirits of the dead. Section B is find the main idea. Once again, one of these statements is too broad, one is too narrow, and one is the main idea. So number one, many people around the world and in different times shared a belief in the afterlife, and this belief affected burial customs. That would be B, too broad of a statement. Number two, the Egyptians used a detailed mummy-making process that involved drying and treating dead bodies. People from other areas of the world have made mummies as well as used similar process. That would be M, the main idea. Number three, many mummies have bones, skin, hair, fingernails, and muscle. That is N, too narrow. Section C. Choose the summary that says the most important things about the article in the fewest words. That would be letter B. For thousands of years, people around the world preserved dead bodies as mummies. First, the body was emptied of liquid, and then it was dried out completely. Different cultures completed the drying out process in different ways. Number two. From the following one-sentence summaries, choose the best description of the article. That would be A. In the past, Egyptians and others preserved dead bodies as mummies. Number three, choose the one sentence that correctly restates the following sentence from the article. Once Egyptians had cleaned out a body, they washed it with wine. That would be A. Egyptians washed the body with wine after cleaning it out. Section D is making inferences. We're going to make correct inferences or faulty inferences. Number one, in ancient Egypt, making a mummy was an expensive procedure. That would be a correct inference. Number two, making mummies is easier in desert areas than in rainy lands. That would be C, a correct inference. Three, people in South America learned to make mummies from Egyptians. That would be F, a faulty inference. Number four, ancient Egyptians might think that a Halloween mummy costume shows disrespect for the dead. That would be C, a correct inference. Moving on to section E, recognize the author's effect and intentions. Number one, what does the author of the article imply by stating Egyptians also mummified animals? That would be A. Egyptians thought that animals had spirits and that the spirits would need their bodies after death. Two, the author probably wrote the article to inform the reader about the history of mummy making and some of the processes involved. Section F, evaluate and create. Put an X in the box next to the answer. Number one, which of the following statements is an opinion rather than a fact? And that would be C, the process of making mummies is more amazing than modern technology. Two, if you were a taxidermist, that's someone who stuffs and mounts dead animals. What is one way of your job would be similar to the process of mummy making as discussed in the article? That would be B. My first step would be the same. I would make sure to dry the bodies completely. And that is the last part. Now we move on to our next, I believe, our final article. That's Escape from Iran. This deals with the real-life account of when the Americans were taken hostage in 1979 in Iran. And The CIA actually sent people in to rescue them by pretending to be movie makers. They made a movie about this about 10 years ago. The movie was called Argo. You can go look it up or rent it, probably watch it on Netflix. All right, Section A. Recognize and recall details. Number 1, when the Iranians attacked the U.S. Embassy, C, 6 Americans escape. 2, when Antonio Mendez of the CIA learned that 6 Americans were in hiding, he, B, came up with a plan to help them escape by having them pose as members of a fake film company. 3, no one knew that the CIA helped with the escape because Mendez, C, has sworn an oath of secrecy. Section B, find the main idea. So once again, it's going to be main idea M, too broad B, or too narrow N. Number 1, to escape from Iran, a group of Americans pretended to be members of a fake film company. That would be N, too narrow a statement. Number 2, the Canadian government helped U.S. citizens in 1979 when the U.S. Embassy was attacked. That is too broad of a statement. And finally, number 3, when the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, Iran was attacked, Canada's ambassador sheltered 6 Americans who had escaped the embassy and helped them get out of the country. That would be M, the main idea. Okay, we got Section C now. They want you to summarize and paraphrase certain paragraphs in the article. I will allow you guys to do that on your own because each of you is going to have something different. Moving on to number 2, read the statement below, then read the paraphrases of that statement. Okay, the statement is, it took the Iranians a while to figure out what had occurred. The paraphrase says, the Iranians knew immediately what had occurred. So the answer to this one would be C, the paraphrase does not match the statement. Section D, making inferences. So once again, we're going to label these following sentences with the C for a correct inference and the F for a faulty inference. In 1979, many Iranians did not like America. That was C, a correct inference. Number 2, the Canadian embassy in Tehran is near the American embassy. That is C, a correct inference. 3, all the people taken hostage in the embassy attack were killed. That is F, a faulty inference. Number 4, Antonio Mendez had helped people escape from hostile countries before. That would be F, a faulty inference. And number 5, members of the CIA are not allowed to talk about the work to people outside the organization. That would be C, a correct inference. Okay, we're moving on to Section E now, author's effect and intentions. It says, number 1, what is the author's purpose in writing Escape from Iran? And that would be B, to describe how Ken Taylor and Antonio Mendez helped 6 Americans escape from Iran. Number 2, from the statements below, choose the one that you believe the author would agree with. That would be A, the efforts of Ken Taylor and Antonio Mendez to help the 6 Americans were heroic. Moving on to our final section, F, evaluate and create. Which of the following sentences and expresses an opinion? That would be letter A. The Iranians had no good reason to be angry with America or to attack the U.S. Embassy. Number 2. The 6 Americans were relieved when they escaped the embassy, but A, they did not know where to go. And 3, according to paragraph 6, Antonio Mendez got fake Canadian passports for the Americans because C, they would need them to get out of Iran. And that's the final one. So this should complete the first packet that was sent out in early March. Hopefully you guys are seeing these and you're going to get this done. I received several from last week. Once people get these in, I can move on to the next section and I will complete videos for all the future assignments. Do your best to get this in as soon as possible. There's only 3 weeks left or 4 weeks left of class before this is final. You need to get your work in so that you can get credit for the class. Talk to you later, guys, and get your work in.